Yo, it's your brother Mo, and today I'm going to be sharing with you the 7 levels of semen retention mastery on how you can ascend from the lower levels whereby you have shame, you have guilt, you're addicted to porn, you're going through the motions of masturbating and ejaculating every single day, up to the higher levels whereby your sexual energy becomes a bridge for you to experience higher levels of consciousness. And when I refer to consciousness, I will be referring to the Hawkins scale, which you can see on the screen right now. And it's all about raising the frequency of our vibration from the lower levels of shame, of guilt, of apathy, up to the higher levels of love, of reason, of joy, and eventually enlightenment. Okay, I will also be referring to the chakra system and how we can transcend where we get our pleasure from the lower chakras up to the higher chakras, and that is really what determines the state of your evolution, right? Where you get your dopamine fix from will determine your state of evolution. When you're getting your dopamine fix from the lower chakras, then you are stuck in the lower paradigm of consciousness, and as we learn to transcend and learn to channel that sexual energy upwards, we become someone who gets the dopamine fix from the higher level chakras. Okay? Now, before diving into the video, just a quick announcement letting you know that the Conscious Creator Manifesto, a free 1-hour training on the big picture of everything to focus on to create a life that you love, to get your mind, your body, your spirit functioning in harmony. I just created it. So stick to the end of this video on how you can get access to that. Okay? Now, the first level of this journey starts at the level of porn addiction. Okay, this is when you are ejaculating every single day, you are addicted to pornography, and the dangers of this is something that has been discussed a lot. I've made a bunch of videos on this, but the real danger of pornography is that it rewires your brain to favor the quick fix of dopamine from busting your nut out from watching pixels on a screen, getting that associated in your mind rather than actually forming a genuine, deep, formal connection with someone, right? Personally, when I was addicted to pornography, I was a very different vibration. I was in a very different frequency, right? I was to myself. I couldn't look people in the eyes. I was lacking confidence. And all of these things correlate back to porn addiction. And when we look at the consciousness scale, the way that we are going throughout it in our porn habit is that we are usually vibrating at the frequency of shame, right? Because no one wants to be that person who's going through the addictions of pornography, but eventually it gets to the point where your brain has become rewired and becomes very difficult to break out of that. Okay, I've made an entire separate video on the neuroscience of porn. I'll link out to it over here. But understand that the more that you masturbate to porn, the harder it becomes for you to quit, because your brain cells, your neurons that fire together, wire together. So each time you're getting the dopamine fix, the more your brain is becoming receptive to receive that fix again, right? So that is the lowest level of the consciousness scale. Even in terms of the chakras, when you look at it over here, you're focused down in the sacral chakra, in the root chakra, you're stuck in survival, and all of your pleasure is derived from this lower energy center of your body, right? So I've made a bunch of videos on this. If you're watching this right now, then you are someone in the process of getting over your porn addiction, or you understand the power of it, and hopefully this will empower you to get more reasons, get more motivation to quit this destructive habit. Okay, then on level 2 we have ejaculation. Okay, so this is when you are not watching pornography anymore, but you are still masturbating, you're using your imagination or whatever it is that you do without using pornography, but you're still ejaculating, you're still letting your life force energy out of your body rather than in and up your body, which takes place at the next higher levels, right? So when you are stuck at this level, you are still ejaculating every single day, you still lack the energy, but you are not experiencing the negative side effects of pornography that it has on your brain. And also you are still focused on the pleasure, you're still focused on getting the dopamine fix from your lower, your sacrum chakra, and more often than not, you might not be at the level of shame, but you do get at the level of guilt, because you still feel like your energy is deprived of you. You still feel like you're not showing up as the most capable version of yourself. You're not showing up with more energy. You know that there's a gap between where you are and where you're capable of being, but you're still addicted to that thrill of the dopamine from getting that, from busting that nut out, right? And then, okay, we might not be watching porn, we might not be masturbating anymore, but then we go through the cycle of chasing girls. All right, I went through that for a long time, going out, trying to get validation from girls, not realizing that it was something that I was dealing with myself, some self-worth issues, which I was trying to resolve by getting validation from girls. But that is an insatiable appetite in itself. And it's still, you are focused on the lower chakras. You are still focused on getting that dopamine fix from the sacral chakra, right? And you're still ejaculating, and it depends how much action you're getting if you have a girlfriend or if you're someone who is in the pickup artist world, right? That was me. That's what got me into this personal development journey as well. But a lot of what is said in that world is that you need to, get validation from girls, and you need to go out every single night, and you need to talk to a lot of girls. And at the end of the day, I asked myself, why am I even doing this? And the answer that came up was that I was seeking validation because of some stuff that happened in childhood back in the day. I won't go too much into it right now, but it was basically feeling like I wasn't loved by my mom and then trying to compensate with that through like getting validation from girls. So yeah, the cycle runs deep. If you give yourself the space to reflect on why it is that you do what you do. Okay, so on this third level, we are still ejaculating, we are still letting our life force go, but we are not doing it through porn, we are not doing it on our own, we are still connecting with someone at some sort of level. Okay, then on the fourth level is when we have NoFap. This is when you understand that you need to conserve your energy. You know that this is something that is a vital force in your life that can allow you to be more productive, to be more creative in your life. And it depends. I mean, you can go from level 1 to level 4. You might not be transcending the levels at each stage. But if you just go from pornography addiction to like NoFap, that's great, because you learn to first and foremost rewire your brain back to its original default setting, right? To let go of associating these pleasure centers from like watching pixels on a screen to like rewiring it and actually forming a deep connection with someone. Because as I talked about in another video, what pornography does is that it takes over the part of the brain that is getting pleasure from actually forming connections with people. Therefore, when you're addicted to pornography, it's way harder to actually form a deep, genuine connection with someone because the part of your brain has been hijacked through porn. Now, depending on what level you come to NoFap from, it comes to the point where you realize the importance of preserving your life force. Okay? But NoFap is not the end all be all. Now, personally, I went through the journey of NoFap. I kept track of my days to like 180 days. And at that point, I was vibrating at the frequency, which you can see over here, at anger. Okay? Because I was unaware of how to actually transmute that sexual energy. Yes, I was being very creative. I started my YouTube channel. I was like making videos all the time, but you can tell from my energy in some of those videos where I'm like screaming at the camera and I'm like, yo, I'm pumped up right now. And I was like on NoFap during that time. And it was just like, it was a lot of outward energy that was not being transmuted within my body. So I could be calm, cool, collected, and actually use that sexual energy towards experiencing higher levels of consciousness. Okay, so NoFap is definitely essential for us to get rid of the negative side effects of porn, to let go of this attachment to sex. And that is when we actually rise to the solar plexus chakra, right? The third chakra, whereby we are practicing our willpower. Our mind might be saying that we need to go and get the desire. We might be saying that we need to go and get the, girl or whatever it is. But we are in control of how we are behaving. We are able to let go of these temptations, and we are able to practice our willpower, whereby we get the pleasure, the dopamine in the solar plexus chakra, whereby we feel good about ourselves because we did what we said we were gonna do, right? So that is the level of NoFap. These are the 3 lower chakras, and that is not where the journey ends. That is really where it is the start of another journey, which is that of solo cultivation. Okay, this is basically when you learn how to make love to yourself, right? When you are not attached to someone else or something else to get that pleasure, but you come at it, whereby solo cultivation is the cultivation of your sexual energies by yourself, right? So in other words, you are masturbating, but you are coming at it from a very different lens, whereby you are not ejaculating, you are cultivating your sexual energy, you're feeling good, and you are making love to yourself, literally. So you are not feeling shameful, you're not feeling guilty, and you feel like you are able to develop a deeper relationship with yourself as well. Okay, this is the Taoist practice, and I was stuck at the level of NoFap for a while until I dove deep into the studies of Taoism, Master Mantak Chia, of Tantric traditions, and how in these Eastern traditions sexuality was actually a bridge for us to experience higher levels of consciousness, about how sexual energy is the same thing as our creative energy, and as we learn to cultivate it on our own, then we're not dependent on anything else to make us feel that way, right? So this is when we're transcending to the level of the heart, the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, whereby we have a loving relationship with ourselves. We don't have shame and guilt associated with this behavior, and we are able to separate between ejaculation and orgasm. Okay, this is a critical juncture in your journey when you realize that orgasm is not the same thing as ejaculation, that you can still experience that heightened orgasmic state without letting your life force go. And this is when things really step it up a notch, where the whole previous conditioning, because we are since childhood, like orgasm and ejaculation is seen as the same thing. And most people are stuck at the level of NoFap because they think that it is the same thing, because they think that they cannot orgasm without ejaculation. But the reality is that there are two distinct biological processes. And as we learn to cultivate that sexual energy through solo cultivation, that is when we can draw the line and differentiation between ejaculation and orgasm. Okay, and that is when we transcend to the next level of semen retention mastery, and that is dual cultivation. Okay, now this is when you are having sex with someone, you are developing that deep intimate connection with someone, you are vibrating at a similar frequency with them. It's not something that where two people are coming into it to get something from each other. It's like two people are coming into it, and they are coming into it to a point where the sum is greater than the parts, right? So that is when you are learning to cultivate that sexual energy. You're transmuting it through your own chakras and through that through the chakras of your partner, and you are cultivating and balancing and harmonizing the masculine and feminine energies that are in that relationship, right? And when we are aware of the difference between ejaculation and orgasm, then we can actually reach that point of orgasm, that whole body orgasm, whereby we are going through the practice of actually cultivating that sexual energy to the point where we experience that whole body orgasm. And that is where you can actually rise to the highest level of the consciousness scale, which is enlightenment. Okay, now this, in my own experience at this point, it's basically when the division between subject and object disappear, right? There is no you who is observing it. It's just all one. And enlightenment at this point in my journey, I see it as an ever increasing feeling of wholeness. And when you have that transcendent experience through that intimate connection with your partner, then you really see the wholeness and oneness and the reality of the way the universe is manifesting. All right, duality becomes an illusion. You realize you be at one with your partner, you are at one with the universe, and you really experience that higher level of consciousness and transcendence that has been talked about in the Taoist practices, that has been talked about in the Tantric practices. And this is about, really, it's a practice, right? In the Taoist cultures, they used to refer to it as the practice of sexual kung fu. Kung fu actually means like skillful practice and time spent. So it's something that doesn't happen overnight. We definitely have to practice. There's a lot of exercises that go into this, right? But once we experience this level of consciousness through our practice of sexual kung fu, then we can actually reach these higher levels in the state of consciousness, whereby you might not even reach enlightenment. For me, I've had those transcendent experiences through that intimate connection. You can probably attest to it, maybe not, but it's hard to explain in words, because it's something that once you experience, that is when you know that there's a difference between knowledge and knowing, right? You can know it and you can understand it, but it's not the same thing, because knowing it is when you actually experience what that feels like. Okay, so that is the level of dual cultivation. And then the seventh level, which is something that I have not experienced myself, but this is the level of the brahmacharya, right? This is in Hindu culture. Brahman meant God in the Vedic traditions, and Charya was like the path. So like the brahmacharya was literally walking in God consciousness. And this is when you develop such an acute sensitivity for your own sensations that you can cultivate that sexual energy without even needing anything to actually be there and experience those emotions. I mean, I'm just telling you from what I've read online, from what I've heard other people talk about, because I personally have not walked the path of the brahmacharya, right? But I would say that in my experience so far, this cultivation of the sexual energy with a partner is something another level, right? This is some of the deepest experiences that I've had in my life to this point. And to say that someone doesn't go through that intimate connection, I mean, I can't say because I'm not a brahmacharian, right? But when you can get to that level, then you are definitely playing on a different level field, right? Like these yogis were again transporting, and they were like barely sleeping, and they didn't eat food because they had such a deep cultivation of their energies. I haven't reached that point yet. Maybe at some point when I go to the Himalayas and I'm able to meditate with the yogis, and I can get there. But I would say that level 6 is where you can get to the point of actually experiencing that transcendent consciousness and really elevating your dopamine pleasure from the lower chakras up to the highest chakras, whereby you transmute that sexual energy up to your third eye, up to your crown, and then down the front, whereby you really experience that transcendence, that oneness, that unity, and that wholeness with your partner, with yourself, and with the universe in total, right? So that's a quick look at the 7 levels of semen retention mastery. Leave a comment below letting me know what level you find yourself on right now. I'll do my best to help you transcend that level, ascend to another thing, and click a bunch of the buttons below if you resonate with this content. But I will invite you to check out the Conscious Creator Manifesto as well. I'll link out to it below. There's a free 1-hour training on how to bring your mind, body, spirit into alignment so that you have the energy and focus directed towards creating the meaning and purpose in your life, right? This is some of the most powerful training that I've put together in my own journey so far. So you can click the link below, check that out, opt in for it, enter your email, and get access to that. Okay? So with all that being said, this has been Mo, and I'll see you in the next video.